Hello everybody, this is Swiss. Welcome back to another video and to another video in the dark series of the things that I do not like about Decentraland right now. And hopefully this will be informative for the new guys. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson here. And hopefully some of the early adopters will benefit from this as well, as there is an increasing dissatisfaction with how things have been handled with some of the original NFTs. And I would just like to, touch on this topic one more time. Like we have touched on this topic multiple times before, and it is just time to touch on it once again. Hopefully, this will be interesting for everyone in the community. I'm gonna try to make this video a little bit longer than usual because it's just very difficult to touch on all of the important points. I'm gonna try to do my best here. So before we continue, let's set the stage. How does the Decentraland economy work? Like, what kind of components help build an economy or are supposed to build an economy going forward? So there is the mana coin, obviously. There is land NFTs and there are wearable NFTs. So wearable NFTs are all sorts of clothing items, accessories that you can see in the background here. I think these are the three obvious ones, and then there are names, of course, as well. Names are also NFTs. Now, names, land, and mana all sit on Ethereum, on the level 1 Ethereum, the main network. And wearables have a bit of a split. The original wearable items, and most of those you see in the background here, are all sitting on the original layer as well. The L1 wearables, the way this is how we call them right now. But now, as you know, it's been now probably what, I don't know, 6 months. I don't even have the timeline in my mind, but for quite some time now, we have the capability of creating user generated wearable items that are sitting on L2. And L2 is a layer 2 solution for Ethereum, which allows inside Decentraland for fee free transactions, right? So you could send an L2 NFT to someone, you can buy and sell it without Ethereum fees. And I think that's the beauty of this. And of course, there's a speed advantage, as a lot of the time the transfer is almost instant. So wearables sit on two different networks. So there are two types of wearables in Decentraland: L1 wearables and L2 wearables, for simplicity reasons. So let's go back in history and let's try to understand why some of the early adopters are not happy right now. Well, originally, 2 3 years ago, when people discovered Decentraland after the 2017 peak in the crypto markets, some people discovered Decentraland around that time. Other people discovered it a little bit later, during 2019. I came in March 2020. And there was a bit of history in all of those episodes, and I'm not fully comfortable going back that far, but I've seen on old Discord trails some of the people who are still around today buying up Decentraland names as early as 2018, I believe. I don't quote me on that, but quite early and much earlier than when I joined. So I was like, wow, these guys have been around for that long and they had the vision that many of you have now that early on. And when I came in 2020, I thought to myself, okay, I believe in this vision. I want to be part of this. And not only do I want to invest time and energy into this, but also I want to invest into this financially. And for a lot of you, this sounds kind of funny because a lot of you guys are here for the mana coin. So the financial motivation is the main reason why you're here. But many of us came here because of the metaverse itself. And the fact that there was a mana coin behind this was really just secondary. Let me take a sip of water here. So you had back then the choice between, hey, should I just buy the mana coin and not do anything on the platform and just wait for it to flourish? Or should I get involved, register a name, get myself a couple of wearable NFTs and start, interact with the world, maybe buy a piece of land, maybe build something on the land. So those guys who came in and went deeper into the platform, who bought land, who started to buying into the wearable items, who were buying names on the secondary market, also those guys did a very bad financial decision, it turns out. If they would have kept their mana, they would have made a fortune by today, but they haven't. So basically, if you view NFTs inside Decentraland as investment vehicles that allow you to have some exposure to the success of the platform, this whole dynamic didn't play out. You should have just kept your mana. And we can discuss this into details as well, but I'm not gonna include like a lot of detail around land valuations and so forth. Some investments were better than the others. There is of course a liquidity question here and there, but generally speaking, you should have just kept your mana and not. You should have not gotten involved with the platform itself. You would have won. Getting involved, being part of it, helping promoting it, making noise around the metaverse and Decentraland did not do you any good. It actually screwed you over. And we see this feedback now all over the place from a lot of the original adopters. And it's tough because I can feel the pain, especially when you see mana prices at 5, at 4. You wonder, okay, why didn't I just stay in mana? What was the point of getting involved? And I understand it's a financial decision, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and I'm okay with that. But there are a couple of things that the Decentraland Foundation and the community could have done not to screw over some of the early adopters, and they would all still be on the platform instead of being out there promoting NFT art and other projects. They would have been here, but they are not. And I don't know how the future will continue, what will happen, but it's just there are things happening that are repeatedly undermining some of the people who have joined in early. And one example is really that introduction of that L2 wearable ecosystem. And it was designed for a very good purpose, right? There was this outcry in the creative community. And remember, this started to happen when art NFTs started to pick up. So there was a lot of momentum behind the whole creativity narrative. So all those creative artists wanted to do stuff inside Decentraland, and one of those things was to create fashion, to create cool items, and I'm totally up for that. I think that's great, and we had other platforms adopting this, and it felt like it was important to stay with this trend, and it definitely seems to be the right direction to go. But one thing is a good idea, and another thing is its execution and some of the details. So the devil is in the detail, right? And what happened is that when the L2 wearables were introduced, and we can see them in the background here, all of these items that you can see, they have the same rarity types like the original L1 wearables. Meaning that if you have a legendary item here, for example, you can create this legendary item for now 500 USD. There has been a recent adjustment in the review fees for these items, so it's not 500 mana apparently any longer, it's now 100 mana. So if you want to create 100 of these items, you have to come up with $500, which is quite affordable considering that you can create 100 NFTs inside the ecosystem. Now remember, a lot of the early adopters, and even some of the not that early adopters, they have they have invested in these rarity types as investment vehicles to support the platform, to speculate, to be part of the game. Some people pay thousands of mana for some of these items because they were counting on these mythic items to be solid properties that would be supported by the foundation, by the ecosystem. Like if you have 10 of these items and you own one, you own a special NFT. It's not only a status symbol, it's also a solid investment, right? That's what you would expect in the ecosystem. Now, what happened is that now anyone and everyone can create 100 of such legendary items for $500, right? Which is problematic. Yes, these ones are on L2, the other ones are on L1, but you don't visually see that difference in the world. There is no status attached to the original items. So it's very hard to argue the value of these, and it's very hard to create some liquidity for these items and some demand for these items because they are kind of expensive. And these items are kind of cheap, but they are in the same rarity categories. They're all legendary wearable NFTs inside the world. So the lack of distinction between these two has really made a lot of people dissatisfied because they just lost a ton of money and did not get that exposure to the success of Decentraland like they would have if they would have just kept it all in mana. So if you kind of screw over those guys in the past, and by screwing over, I mean just not really caring about their wishes, that means, are you going to screw over the next guys too? Is it not really about the community? Is it not really about the ecosystem? Is it not really about the economy? I mean, what can you spend mana on today? You can buy land or you can buy wearable items. That's it. Maybe there's a travel agency that accepts mana, or I don't know. It's an important component that I feel like got messed up. I think it's important to have this user generated stuff, and I do create my own stuff too, but it cannot be put into the same category as the original investment vehicle NFTs that people bought to be deeply part of the community. So here you go. I think in terms of wearables, this is where my dissatisfaction lies, and I know for a fact that a lot of people feel the same way. Now, I did create a proposal a couple of months ago where I said, hey, if we introduce a system like this, why don't we have a separate rarity type that people can mint user-generated items into? It does not have to be a mythic or a legendary. It can be any kind of other new category that we can create. And they just created unique items. We never had unique items before. I don't remember anyone voting on any DAO for any kind of new rarity type. It was just introduced. Bam, it was there. So it was possible to introduce new rarity types. There could have been a user rarity type, and everyone could just mint their stuff in there. We don't need to have 10,000 user-generated T-shirts for $500 all over the place. But what happened is that, and you will not believe that, but a foundation-owned Ethereum account came and downvoted my proposal with 900,000 votes immediately. And after doing some research, who owns the account, it turns out to be a inventory account that holds all sorts of wearables in there that are being created by third parties. They had to take a chunk of those items and deposit them into a separate Ethereum account, and they were stored there for future prizes and things like that. And that account also had some money in it. It's a strange intermediary inventory account, and somebody had access to this and went around like downvoting other people DAO proposals, which is ridiculous. Like, first of all, don't use the foundation accounts to go and vote on stuff. And we had that discussion yesterday, I believe. Like, why would you do that? I mean, it's not smart. And then, why downvote a good proposal? Yes, there was a component of the proposal that people felt it was too expensive and stuff like this. But, essentially, the idea got killed, and I eventually deleted this proposal. And this was a mistake. I have a video of it on my channel where it's still there, but I eventually deleted it once someone came in immediately and downvoted it with 1 million votes. We were just early in the DAO process, and it was just discouraging. So here we go, guys. This is the Wearables drama. Recently, we had launched another DAO proposal to at least add some voting power to L1 Wearables. Since name owners have now voting power, why don't at least these guys who already got screwed over financially, why don't they at least have voting power, which they don't have? So the guys who went in heavy on wearables, got screwed over multiple times. And I really hope for everyone who has suffered from this that they had some mana exposure or some other investments that could keep them afloat to continue contributing, because there's definitely no support from the foundation team on this. And I think this really sucks, man. You hear it? It sucks. And there was no support at all. And then you have certain influencers going around saying, hey, and argue against it. And I would really love to express my opinion specifically to each one of those. And I probably will. I will call them out by name, and I will tell them why they are not smart. But the thing is, I also do understand if you are paid or if you are supported otherwise, or if you are employed or whatever, you do have to maintain a certain posture, and it's fair. I will respect that. But if they go around manipulating people's opinions, it's not going to pay off in the long run for them, because the internet does not forget. Anyways, guys, I wanted to give you a bit of an insight on how some of these things played out in the past. And hopefully, once things start to develop again, you will understand what is going on right now as well, having that knowledge. All right, guys, I'm getting tired. Hopefully this was useful, and take it easy, and I talk to you soon. Bye-bye.